All right, just a second. All right, Selina, I'm so excited to get to actually chat with you about Horses and Money, the workshop. This is something that for me has felt like a long time coming, something that I have needed in the horse world pretty much my entire life and have never been able to find these kind of resources. And a lot of times it just feels like each of us is kind of out on our own, dealing with these emotions and the stress and the pressure and everything that comes along with trying to have horses in our lives and also deal with the financial realities of that. And I know that you deal with a lot of different aspects of money and people's relationship to money. And one thing that has always struck me is I have a really complicated relationship to money as a horse person. And I have a lot of trouble separating the emotional side from the kind of practical side of the finances. So, for the other horse people that are out there feeling like this is a little bit of a struggle, what would be kind of your main, one or two pieces of advice when it comes to the emotions and the money as a horse person?
I am so excited for this event, and I'm so excited for us to dig into these layers because emotions and money are really living under the surface for a lot of people. It's not something that we feel confident sharing with other people. And of course, that's based on societal pressures. And I believe when you said you have a complicated relationship with money, pretty much everyone does. I mean, I've worked with thousands and thousands of humans on relationship to money work. And if you don't have a complicated relationship with money, like, are you even thinking about money is part of it. And when you spoke about emotions, I think that's a critical piece for us to really think about is that, when we grew up in our family origins with money, there were lots of layers about what was expected, what was allowed, money rules. And as we grow into adults, that lives under the surface as subconscious money rules for us. And so, early on, as we started dealing with money, when we had emotions, we learned to push them down and really choose practicality rather than processing our emotions. So at this event, I really want to allow us to get curious about emotions because emotions hold the potency of how we heal our relationship to money. And relationship to money is unique for us all, but a lot of it involves numbers work, but the real work lives beyond the numbers because I've had clients who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars have extreme money anxiety, which showed me that it's not a numbers problem. It gets to be this thing where we get curious around what money means to us and to start listening to what the emotions are telling us so that anxiety can feel insurmountable. But the reality of it is that we have to have curiosity around it. We get to say, like, money's with us for a lifetime. This is obviously showing me something. And if horses is my life and I don't want to give it up, there gets to be harmony around practical money solutions and diffusing these high tension money emotions that I feel because we get to see money differently. And so one of the things that I really invite people to consider is that we do have choice even when we feel like we don't. And so getting back to basics, starting to hold space, as I would call, just getting curious about the emotions and saying, like, is this something I want to do, or is this something that I feel pressure from based on what I learned as a child, or that I feel as a societal pressure that's been put on me? Because often what we feel like we're most excited about to get out there and be, on our horses, and we're constantly thinking about the anxiety that comes with it instead of the joy that we feel. And that can take us out emotionally. So something that I just invite us to do, number one, is acknowledge the emotion rather than immediately suppress it like we've been taught. To sit in this environment where we're like, okay, this is showing me something. Emotions are normal. They're important for me to feel connected to my relationship to money. And I have to sit with these feelings in order to move through them. And what's required is a readiness. Because some of that is scary, but it's also that you're not alone. You're not alone. So getting those emotions to say, like, okay, this is going to help me for the rest of my life. The work I do here with money, getting curious about my anxiety, I get to decide, is this part of my future? And I think that part of that is getting back to, rather than just automatically feeling like we always have, just saying, like, is this really bringing me gratitude? Why am I doing these things? And if I'm doing them from gratitude, they have to have a really important place in my life going forward. And there isn't room for an automatic feeling of anxiety. And then we get to replace that with practical strategies, mindset tools, and things. So for anyone listening, I just really invite you to be kind to the emotion that pops up. We all have them. Complicated money stories are prevalent. And how we start really learning about that is to get curious, listen to that anxiety, listen to that shame, and go, is this mine to carry? Or has this been, something that's been given to me by society or from someone in my life? Because we will not go against the rules of our family. Most of us won't. It's just automatic. So we have to build new neural pathways. And most of us can do it relatively quickly. We can decide that we're ready and choose a new path. And that's what we're going to be digging into in the event. And I can't wait for it. A lot of people feel like money work can be too overwhelming, but there's a lot of ways we can get some small wins that can make a ripple effect that change the course of your life forever.
I'm so excited to be able to dive into this because it's something that is for some reason even more taboo in the horse space than anywhere else. And I think part of it is the fact that this is a really expensive passion, sport, lifestyle, profession, however it kind of manifests in each person's life. And there's a kind of a weird feeling of guilt or shame around complaining about it or being stressed about it at all. So a lot of us do feel really alone. And I think the conversation's just now starting, which I'm so excited to be able to really dive into these conversations at the workshop. But it's also so interesting to me because it kind of doesn't matter where you are on the financial spectrum. We hear the same feedback from people who, I would look at and say, oh my gosh, if I was in that position, I wouldn't be stressed at all. But they're just as stressed because so much of it, like you said, isn't just about the numbers. It's about the feelings and programming around that. And one thing that I thought was really interesting is when we started putting out kind of the announcements for this workshop, we had a lot of people write in saying things like, I wasn't able to enjoy the first horse I bought on my own because I was so stressed about the money. Or for me, every horse show I go to, it's kind of a running joke. I cry at every horse show, and it's always about the money because it's such a financial strain for me to be there that I put so much pressure on myself to perform instead of really being in the moment. So I think, while a lot of horse people, I think, are very goal and action oriented. Okay, well, I just need to know, how do I manage my books? How do I budget better? How do I do this? A lot of us, just from the culture of the equestrian sport, it's not a super touchy-feely, talk about your feelings kind of culture. The hustle is rewarded. Just work your ass off until you make it happen is very rewarded, which is great. I was a working student for a decade, but I do think it's so important that we actually dive into, how this is affecting our life with horses and how it's taking things away from that. So I think, a big part of this is allowing this space for horse people to feel less alone, feel connected, feel supported, and feel comfortable being able to do that. But I know that you're going to kind of meld both of those together, right? The emotional and mental and programming side, and also there will be some kind of more practical, actionable tools.
Yeah, you can't have one without the other. And I totally understand. It's not prevalent for us to just start talking about our money feelings. And that's not something I'm advocating for initially. But what I do want to have is the ability where we have that safe space. We can come in and talk about the things where we feel alone. Because a lot of the time, that's what I hear often from my clients. It's like, I didn't think anyone else felt this way, or I feel like I'm wrong because I feel this way. And it's a lot more prevalent than we think. And so what you said was really important when you said, hustling doesn't have to be bad. And I agree. But hustling is bad when it takes us out of the joy that we're looking towards, or it pushes us into a chronic burnout, or just really feeling pressure instead of any joy. Like ultimately, when we think of what richness means with money, it's richness in time, in having the ability to do the things you love without guilt. And that's the essence of what I want to talk about. When you say you go to your first horse show and you can't even be present to loving it, it just feels like insurmountable pressure. Well, when we think about, at the end of our life, we're really going to wish we were present to that. And so some of the work that I want to get to in this workshop is how can we turn down the volume of that deafening pressure and really live in the enjoyment of our life in the present. And part of money work is looking at the past with that conditioning, and in the present of like, how can I really live the life I want in the richest form, not just in numbers, but in all forms, where I can be unapologetic about getting on my horse and just being like overwhelmed in gratitude instead of overwhelmed in pressure and guilt and feeling alone. And it's those small actions that make a massive difference that can really revolutionize, money in the horse industry. If individual people start seeing it differently, there's a compound effect. And that's really what I'm looking forward to, is that we can have a conversation that we've never had access to, that we can bring forward emotions without it meaning that we're bad people or we're not enough or there's not enough worthiness. It's just, we have these emotions around money. What do they mean? Just like anything, we learn a new skill around money that's not just practical math, because budgeting and practical math helps us, but it only gets us so far. So beyond that, if we have an emotion, I want us to dig into, okay, what does this mean for me in my life? And how can I diffuse those things so I can be present, enjoy more aspects of my life without it always having to be a math problem and me always failing at it. And so I believe that there's an equilibrium for all of us in our relationship with money. Working hard is important, but also really enjoying the life we're creating and being present to that without the deafening noise of money anxiety is essential. So that's what we're going to be digging into. And it might feel initially a little strange to have this conversation, but let me tell you, I've been doing this work for a long time in a variety of arenas for, several different backgrounds and industries. And I think that just giving that permission to show up unapologetic about how we're feeling and some really tangible processes that help us think about feelings that also create action with the numbers can be life-changing. And I truly mean that. So if you've been curious, I really want you to come, because it's not what you expect. This is not a regular financial conversation. We're gonna talk about things that we can bring into action immediately. And it doesn't all have to be touchy-feely. It gets to be your own interpretation of feeling connected to your life in a deeper way. And we do that by getting curious around emotions. We don't always have to relive them, but then we learn about it. It gives us information that we can make better decisions that turn into better life.
So for the horse people that are maybe a little uncomfortable with this, I don't want to go into my feelings, or this just feels really new to them, and this isn't something that maybe they're super comfortable spending money to attend because it's so new and so different. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of kind of what the process is going to be like, and also what they can expect to kind of take away from this experience?
Absolutely. So like I said, this is not going to be a standard financial presentation. My intention is that you're going to go there and be immersed in the realm of money through an entirely new perspective. We're not here to enhance any kinds of discomfort, but I want you to bring forward your best self and say, look, what do I actually want to achieve in my life? We're going to get clear. We're going to get curious. I'm going to bring tangible case studies forward about what's happening in the horse world and saying like, okay, how do we feel about this? And I'm not bringing up anyone on camera. So there's a lot of safety, but what I don't want anyone to feel like is that I'm just there talking at people. I too have a complicated relationship with money. I always have. And that's why I've loved this work so long, is that we're all students of this work and we can make small improvements that change the course of our life. And so I'm going to be there holding space and challenging old ways of thinking to improve the quality of your life and evolve your relationship with money, both in practical terms, intangible terms. So my intention is that you leave there with new clarity on how you've grown up, how you think about money in current day, and practical things you can implement right away that are small, that aren't going to have you feeling overwhelmed, that, in 30, 60, 90 days time, you will be shocked at how different you feel around money. And what's required is that curiosity. You think, well, maybe I'll go. It seems like a strange topic, but just come, be present. You will be amazed at how much can feel shifted from this experience. And I know this because I've been doing it for well over a decade in a variety of industries. And I'm really transparent and candid. I like to share stories that highlight how I've moved through my relationship with money, or other clients have, to really obliterate that feeling of being alone. And we're going to give specific, tangible examples in the horse industry so that it's not just standard boilerplate advice. It is customized to this industry. You will feel seen and heard and celebrated, and you will leave with more clarity, more excitement. If you can have excitement, yes, you can, around changing your relationship with money and evolving that relationship with money so that your life changes, that the richness in your life beyond numbers can be rooted in peace instead of pain.
I love that. And I love what you said too about how if kind of each of us is able to feel empowered around this, that's how we start to get that change across the board in the entire equestrian culture. What I love about this too is that it is tailored towards horse people, because all of us know that, you and I have talked about this, the way that we spend money and view money is in the regular world pretty illogical. I mean, most people would never put themselves in the kind of financial positions most of us do. The amount of money that we spend on horses usually far outweighs what we spend on ourselves or anything else. And so it's hard to listen to kind of your standard generic financial advice, because it just doesn't make sense here.
It doesn't apply. And then it will never come into your heart and make you want to make change. One of the things that I deeply believe is that we have to build a relationship to money that's unique to us. And so it doesn't matter if someone we know doesn't value horses the way we do. If we value them and we learn to appreciate that, not make it wrong, but instead say, the richness I feel with my horses is invaluable. And I'm totally giving myself permission to spend on that because it is everything I've wanted in this life. That already feels like permission. And so I want to have that go deeper. One of the sayings that I really believe in is that how we choose to spend is a direct reflection of how we choose to love ourselves. And what that means to me is it's not going against anyone else. Us living our best life, if it happens to be the love of horses, is not a bad thing. More people choosing to love their life in a way that makes sense, and then practically finding a way for the numbers to make sense around that, makes the world a better place. And if you can be unapologetic in your love for how you choose to spend, and find a way to reduce the stressors around it and not feel alone, can't you already feel how that just feels lighter? And so a lot of people feel like money problems are rooted in numbers, but I feel the opposite. And so I love that this community loves differently. And that's why we're customizing it. There's nothing wrong with loving what you love. It's giving yourself permission to do it differently and building strategies around it that's unique to you, and turning down the volume on how regular money needs to be spent. Ultimately, of course, the numbers need to make sense, but how you choose to allocate that money needs to be done with full confidence and clarity, not pain and, shame. And I think that just having that eagle eye view of money that's completely different will set a lot of people free. And then adding that practicality and some accountability on the other side can truly be life-changing. And I know that's a big sentiment, but I really believe in it. Choosing to spend money in a way that neutralizes pain and enhances joy, why not? We have one precious life. And if you love the horse industry and love being part of the horse community, if you work on yourself and your relationship to money, you're going to give people permission around you to do the same. And imagine the ripple effect. That's what I get really excited about. If we can change the nucleus of, it's not just for this type of person, it's for everyone who feels the love of this industry. Everyone can feel that gratitude. And what's required is to say, okay, then how? And we're going to get a little bit into the how at the event.
I mean, it gets me, everybody that knows me knows that I'm really emotional already, but it gets me emotional thinking about it because we all spend so much time doing kind of mindset work as writers. We've all taken mental skills classes as equestrians, as riders, for how we perform in the show ring, or, how we deal with show nerves or anxiety. But I think so much of it is rooted in this, the guilt, the shame, the stress, the pressure around money. And we just put that away and go, no, I'm just nervous or anxious about riding. And this is a huge part of it that's just not touched. And I know, life-changing feels like a really big sentiment, but for me, I know that, what you just said about being able to have that freedom to be okay with this is our lifestyle and how we're choosing to spend, and then building strategies around that already feels like a huge weight off of my chest and something that feels very freeing. So I'm so excited to be able to have a huge group of people go through this experience together. And I really do think that, it sounds so simple of money work is going to be life-changing, but it's not just about the money. It's about our entire experience in our life with horses.
Simple is never easy. So like you said, you go into riding and you learn a lot about practical mindset in that. We're going to complement that. So that my whole hope is that when you get on a horse, that invisible load of feeling alone or anxiety or defeated around money gets to feel like something you get to remove, and you just get to enjoy your experience. Imagine what you can do from a place of that power. That feels like richness instead. And, listening to that, it might sound like a pipe dream, but in the reality of being in a community of like-minded, heart-centered, amazing humans, and you get to the heart of why these emotions exist, and you start realizing that some of those thoughts have been part of the conditioning we've taken on, and we get to decide to choose differently. It can be part of the mindset routine of riding. It's like, okay, let me think about a couple of things to enhance my money mindset. It doesn't have to be this big wave of change. It just gets to be part of the enhancement of your life. But what the benefit is the invisible load goes away. That is life-changing. Like, can't you all just feel that in your shoulders if you get on your horse and you remove some of that anxiety and you're like, no, I just get to be present. Like, your shoulders go back. Like, I have goosebumps thinking about it, and you deserve that. We all deserve it. And that's why this is the mission of my lifetime, to have these conversations no one wanted to have, and to dig into, the statistics and the interviews. And I've talked to so many people around this and built strategies because it really is life-changing. And so I know that sentiment, we're going to get some eye rolls, but just keep thinking about that. You get on your horse and you can just feel the wind on your face and the sun shining, and not this huge weight on your shoulders because you attended this event. And it's not just immediately. Like, a relationship with money is a lifelong relationship, but these strategies get to stay with you. They get to be a part of you, and you get to implement them as you go. And that gets to change your family legacy as well. So for those who have families who are attending, you get to have better conversations with the people around you. You feel more equipped to stand behind what you value and not take on other people's judgments because you love the horse industry. That also can feel like freedom.
I mean, so much of this just speaks to my soul, and something that, I'm 35 and I've been riding my entire life. And it's something that has always been kind of this omnipresent thing in my life, is how will I afford it? How will I do this? I have these goals. I have these dreams. I want to do these things with horses. And it's always felt like the barrier to me is money. And I know that I'm not alone in feeling like that. And what I love about this workshop too, is that it's not just for any one sector of the horse world. It's not just for professional riders. It's not just for amateur riders. It's not just for hunter jumpers. It's for every discipline. It's for everybody, because whether you're riding professionally and trying to make this your career, or you have a full-time job and a family and you're trying to ride and show, or you just want to buy your first horse as an adult because you rode as a kid and your dream is to just be able to have horses in your life again. At the root of it, we're all dealing with the same thing. It manifests in different ways, and we have kind of different views on it, and it's all individual. But when it boils down to it, this work is going to be so powerful for anybody involved. So, I know that, like we said, this is something that is different and is new and is not something that's really been done in the horse world before. So if anyone that's watching this right now is on the fence, what would you say to someone who is doubting whether or not that this would be right for them, or this will have an impact in their life?
There is something I really believe that's important for us all, no matter what industry we're in. If you're on the fence, it means that there's a curiosity, there's a readiness, and your heart trusts the way. And that may sound a little fluffy, but it isn't. there's a part of us, the highest self, the coming home to the life we really want to live. If you feel like, no, this isn't for me, you can trust that. But if you're curious about it, it means part of you is intrigued. And part of the work in money work or any type of work, learning a new skill, there's always a, but how? And that's the invitation. You get to come and make it a custom process for you. Erin mentioned saying like, how can I afford this? Just that one sentiment, just reframing it slightly, instead of saying, how can I afford this? It's really deciding like, this is one of my life. I have no choice but to afford it. Let me find strategies to make it happen. One feels it's impossible or hard, and the other is like, of course this is happening. Let me find a way. Just that one example goes, maybe it is possible for me. And so if you sit into small like reframes like that, if you feel curious, come. Even if you're like, I don't think this is going to help me, but I'm sort of interested. I really leave this 2 days with some practical strategies. You're going to hear some things that will change everything. And, I've attended things before where I'm like, you know what, I don't know if this is going to help me, but there's something that I go home and just listening, I can feel changed. I don't have to be participating heavily in the chat. I can just be present and set the intention that I'm going to go in there and get clarity on 2 different things that can change the course of my life, or 2 different things that can help me reduce money anxiety. So for those of you on the fence, I see you, and I challenge you to say like, what if everything changes after this? I'm going to listen to that inner pull that says maybe. I'm so excited. And for those of you who are like, I'm not, what if you could peace in your relationship to money? And when you get on that sunshine, you can actually feel it. The anxiety around money. What if that is possible for you too? You decide, you say you're ready, and come. There's going to be a myriad of experts. Some you'll resonate with more than others, but ultimately, what do you have to lose? That's what I love to say. Like, the investment for a potential life-changing opportunity is worth it. So I'm biased because I'm coming in as a keynote, but that's really what I believe.
I mean, I do too. And I've talked about money a lot, that's kind of on my personal platform. It's something I've been really open about because it's something I feel like nobody else has been. And that's a support system that I needed. But we have, you teaching these incredible keynote seminars. And then we also have so many people on these panels from all walks of life. So I think there's someone that everyone will resonate with. I mean, we have Margie Engel, who is an Olympian who worked her way up to literally the top of the sport. We have a bookkeeper, we have a psychologist, we have amateur writers in the 100 jumper space, the Western world, 3-day eventing. So we're bringing so many different perspectives with this kind of aligned mission to uplift the community, empower the community, make everyone feel less alone, have the difficult conversations, and then also leave all of us with a feeling of more freedom, more empowerment, and like we have a path that we know what to do. So, I mean, this is something that to me feels like the biggest passion project I've ever had the privilege to work on. And we're so excited to be able to have you as part of this. I mean, it's so just truly amazing.
And, almost every event I've ever attended, I've heard people afterwards say, you know what, I met someone there that I could learn and integrate and be an accountability buddy with. And so you may meet someone in there who, really helps you stay accountable to the life of your dreams. And having all of those different experts or, specific industry professionals, just that, to be in a 2-day event, where are you going to have access to that? It's unprecedented. And so even if you're like, I don't know about this money thing, just to come in and listen and implement small things, there's so much change that can come from that, and a whole community of people waiting who also are like-minded and are excited to evolve their relationship to money, feel more freedom, feel more excited, and really walk in richness that you've never had, and richness in all forms beyond just money.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being part of this. I cannot wait to actually get into the workshop. It's going to be amazing.
I'm so excited. I'm so honored. I can't wait to see you all there too.
Let me just stop the recording.